My father fled Russia. Actually, my grandfather fled Russia. Fled Russia because Marxism was a system in which he could not live. He came here for freedom. And every day I see we have a Caesar in the White House, surrounded by the apparatchiks, the Mensheviks. I can't believe what I'm watching. And sometimes I ask myself, is this nation filled with morons? Are they blind? Do they not see what's going on? They don't understand what's going on, what's emerging in front of their eyes. Now, let me give you an example if you think I'm making this up. Those of you who are too drugged, too dumb, too ignorant, too uneducated to understand who Obama really is. Would you have believed that this man, Obama, would have invited the head of the radical New Black Panther Party, Malik Zulu Shabazz, to the White House? Would you believe that Jeremiah Wright, the reverend who Obama says he disavowed, was in the White House? Would you believe that Al Sharpton was in the White House? Would you believe Jesse Jackson was in the White House? Now you say, well, where are you getting these names from? On Friday, just as I went off the air on the East Coast, the White House released a list of people through a disclosure who had visited the White House. You can see the list, the PDF list. It is released by the White House, not by Michael Savage. 110 names, 481 visits, released after I went off the air on Friday. So you can see who came, who went, and what they were doing there. These are people who went through the White House doors since January. Now, why would Malik Zulu Shabazz, national chairman of the radical New Black Panther Party, be invited into the White House? Why would Reverend Jeremiah Wright be invited? Why would William Ayers be invited in? Why would Jamie Dimon of J.P. Morgan be invited into the White House many times? Why would George Soros be invited into the White House repeatedly? Now, Jamie Dimon is an interesting case. Here is a man with J.P. Morgan Chase that got $25 billion of your money. Jamie Dimon is a man who was given Lehman Brothers by President Bush and Hank Paulson. He was in the White House. Now, Newt Gingrich was there because he is one of the most oily creatures on the planet. I don't know how you people don't understand what, because Sean Hannity has him on, you think he's legitimate? Are you people out of your minds? Look at Newt Gingrich, what a putz the guy is. Just last Wednesday, he endorses the fake Republican in upstate New York. She drops out over the week on Friday, and she endorses the Democrat instead of the Republican, the actual conservative, rather, running against her. Don't you understand Newt Gingrich? I call him the Go-Pack tick in my book, Political Zoo, like a year ago, 2 years ago. Don't you understand I see all? Don't you understand that I have a crystal ball that is clearer than anybody in the U.S. media? You don't put two and two together? Now, I said to people that I met, a few people I spoke with, do you know that Malik Zulu Shabazz, Al Sharpton, Jesse Jackson, and others were in the White House? They said, where did you read this? I didn't see it in my local paper. You hear? They didn't see it in their local paper. What, the dying newspapers that nobody reads? Of course you didn't see it in your local paper run by the Marxist minions. Why would he have a controversial black extremist in the White House? Why would he have a Shabazz in there who's given many speeches condemning white men and Jews? Why would he have Al Sharpton? Why would he have Jesse Jackson? Why would he have these people in the White House? Why? And why do you not know about it? Ladies and gentlemen, it's because you don't deserve to know anything. You are like dumb cattle. You need an electric cattle prod to even know you're awake or alive. You're either drugged with illegal drugs or legal drugs. Your doctor is part of the controlling mechanism. Certainly the media is of no value to you. The fourth estate has become the fifth column. How many times have I said it? I guess it has to be stolen by someone until you finally hear it. One of the best websites out there is from Russia called Pravda. And their new editorial in Pravda says, keep your hands inside the coaster. We are at the top of the second hill. And it says that we're about to crash. He said, what's happening now is identical to what took place between the 1929 collapse and the 1931 final landing. They claim the world economy fell hard, bounced high, and then fell into a deep black hole that it took 30 years to climb out of. He says, this time it'll be worse, at least for the Anglos and more specifically the Americans. Now, admittedly, they are Russian nationalists, but doesn't mean they're stupid. Listen to the rest of this. You want to hear this or not? Or would you rather play Dungaree Doll? And they go on and on. They go on and on. It says things in there you have to hear, by the way. You want to hear it? You want to hear it? You don't want to hear it? It says the British police state got a rude awakening this week. The Bolshevik Labour and their Menshevik Tory allies. I don't know if you know what a Bolshevik and a Menshevik is. That's important for you to know, but I think you know instead which Hollywood slut fell down on her behind on Sunset Boulevard and which fake actor pretended to be a war hero, but you don't know what a Bolshevik is or a Menshevik, even though you're surrounded by Bolsheviks and Mensheviks. In other words, in our country, the equivalent of the Bolsheviks are the Democrats, and the equivalent of the Mensheviks are the Republicans. Don't you understand why I've told you both parties are one and the same for years now? Don't you understand who Newt Gingrich is? Newt Gingrich is a fat Menshevik, okay? And Obama's the skinny Bolshevik. I'll put it in cartoon imagery for you. So they go in and they write, this week the Bolshevik Labour and their Menshevik Tory allies in England were expecting to exit the recession, but instead had a further recession with a big drop. Now listen to this line. Surely this must be the fault of those evil English defense leaguers for not Islamicizing like good little Kafir serfs. Go get them, lads. Show them that Eve, if no longer Great Britain, is not that either. And he says, oops, I guess this will now get me on the famous banned list to the British police state. Not that I have any plans on visiting that Orwellian prison camp, he writes. It's amazing. I mean, this is from Russia. You wouldn't think that they could still, see what's going on in the world, right? You're supposed to believe they're stupid? Says the Americans are about to find out the shocking truth of their paper-dead economy. Biggest mooch and beggar indebted to every third world country does not make a nation prosperous. Unlike 1929, America is not a loaner of cash, though it still gives it out to various puppets and fascists and Marxists around the world. Instead, America is the biggest debtor in all of the history of human civilization. Furthermore, unlike 1929, it is not a net exporter of, but an importer of everything short of the tanks, bombers, but not of the bullets and handguns and heavy equipment. It must now import even food from China and Latin America. This is amazing stuff. Now, what does that have to do with Malik Shabazz of the new Black Panther Party being invited into the the White House? What does it have to do with Sharpton and Gingrich and Diamond and the others like Soros repeatedly going in and out of the the White House since January? It has everything and it has nothing to do with it. It has to do with America's suicide. It has the sadness of a major tragedy right in front of your eyes. The American suicide is going on right in front of your eyes. The hubris of America, the insanity of America, the spending policy of Bush, which I warned you about for years, over and over and over again. And now it's coming home to bear. Now, why have you not read that Barack Obama had welcomed Reverend Jeremiah Wright, Malik Zulu Shabazz, William Ayers? Shall I go down the list? I mean, you want to hear who else is? Why is George Soros in and out of the White House the money changer? And why every week do we read George Soros saying we got to get out of the dollar? Got to get out of the dollar. For 3 weeks he was bumming the dollar. Get out of the dollar. Get out of the dollar. Get out of the dollar. In and out of the White House. Get out of the dollar. Meanwhile, he was probably shorting the dollar, and then the dollar rebounds after he runs the dollar into the toilet, and that's who Obama chooses to have in the White House. You don't see what's going on in front of your eyes? Now, wait a minute. It gets worse. This gang, this administration has the nerve to say that although the name Jeremiah Wright, woman comes home, she finds her husband in bed with another woman. The husband looks up at her while he's with the other woman and says, who are you going to believe, me or your eyes? Who are you going to believe, me or your own eyes? The Caesar we have in the White House is giving it to you real good, and you don't even understand you're getting it. You don't even want to accept what he's doing to you. Because if you accepted it, you'd have to admit you're a moron for having elected him. This is a government-owned media.
Well, all the pieces are coming together, Mike, and thank God you're here to help us understand it. Because when I saw that, I got a little fearful. And then you're saying George Soros is in the White House? I'm just downright frightened about that.
Yes, George Soros is in and out of the White House about 7 or 8 times, according to the White House's list that was released 8 o'clock Friday night. And your local newspaper, your piece of garbage paper that no one buys, has the nerve under AP to publish the story, White House releases list as part of transparency, and visitors include Oprah Winfrey and George Clooney. You hear this?
Unbelievable.
Yeah, well, I have the PDF on my website. You really should download it. And you should, yeah, you're going to get a liberal to listen to you. Well, who published that? What, is some right-winger print that? If you tell them, no, the White House printed the list. Well, I don't believe it. I didn't read it in the local paper. So what are you going to do? His ratings are in the gutter. The people are slowly awakening to him. I don't know if they're awakening fast enough. You know, I don't know. The education level in America is about equal to that of the Ukraine right now, so I really don't know what chance we have. The problem is that I'm slightly ahead of my time with regard to what I'm telling you. The people are not quite ready for this. They will be after it's too late. Once it's too late, they actually see what happened and say, well, I heard that years ago. I didn't believe the guy because he wasn't a liberal. I didn't believe him because I was told he was a bad guy. I didn't believe him because he spoke in a loud voice. I didn't believe him because he wasn't polite enough. I didn't believe him because he sounded too much like my father. I didn't believe him because he sounded like my uncle. I didn't believe him because he sounded like the men used to sound like years ago, and I don't like that sound. I like polite men who put a knife in my back. Okay?